really do just treat love like a lottery ticket, don't we? I mean, you've probably felt this yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
There's this idea that love is just a pleasant sensation that you happen to fall into if you're lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time. Like you walk into a coffee shop, you drop your book, someone picks it up, your eyes meet, and boom, you've won the jackpot.
Right, the classic Hollywood meet cute.
Exactly. But today, we are completely dismantling that myth. We're doing a deep dive into a seminal 1956 masterclass in philosophy and psychology. It's called The Art of Loving by Erich Fromm.
It's such a brilliant piece of work.
It really is, and we're specifically diving into the first 40 pages, along with this really fascinating Forward to the World Perspective series that it was originally published in.
Yeah, that forward really sets the stage for the whole thing.
It does, and the mission for this deep dive is to challenge that modern instinct we all have for, easy, efficient results. Fromm argues that love is not an object you magically find. Love is an art that you actually have to learn.
And it requires the mastery of both theory and practice. In the exact same way someone learns the art of medicine or carpentry or engineering.
Right. You don't just wake up a doctor.
Exactly. Nobody expects to just stumble into a workshop and instinctively be a master carpenter. Yet for some reason, we fully expect to just stumble into being a master of love. And Fromm points out this incredible irony in our culture. We are absolutely starved for love.
Oh, totally.
I mean, we watch endless movies about it, we stream thousands of heartbreak songs, but almost no one thinks there's anything to actually learn about it.
Yeah, it's wild. We pour all of our energy into studying how to achieve success or prestige or make a bunch of money, and we just treat love as this mysterious luxury that requires zero effort.
Which is exactly why we fail at it so often.
Right. And before we can even begin to practice this art, Fromm says we have to unlearn some deeply ingrained bad habits. Because our modern culture sets us up to fail from the very start.
We really do have it completely backward.
We spend all our time agonizing over whether we are lovable, rather than practicing how to actually love.
And that right there is the core of the problem. Most people see the challenge of love entirely as a problem of being loved, not loving. And Fromm notes how this historically plays out along gender lines, which is pretty revealing.
Yeah, how so?
Well, men typically try to become lovable by pursuing success, power, and wealth. Climbing the social ladder.
Right, the classic provider trope.
Exactly. And women, historically, were pressured to make themselves attractive by cultivating their bodies, their dress, their physical appearance. And then both groups try to develop pleasant manners and interesting conversation to round it out.
So basically just trying to be a good product.
Yeah. When you look closely, our cultural idea of being lovable is really just a mixture of being popular and having sex appeal.
Okay, let's unpack this, because this is where the modern dating scene gets exposed in a pretty brutal way.
It really does.
Fromm traces this back to the collision between the rise of romantic love and the capitalist marketing orientation of the 20th century. So we started treating dating exactly like shopping for real estate or, a used car.
That is the perfect analogy.
You go out looking for the best package available on the personality market, you calculate your own hidden assets, and you try to snag someone whose social value is highly desirable, but who is also willing to buy you based on your own exchange value. I mean, it is optimizing a Tinder profile decades before the internet even existed.
What's fascinating here is how completely the commodity and labor markets dictate our most intimate, private human relations. I mean, the psychological mechanism at play here is just pure objectification.
Wow, yeah.
Because if you are operating under the premise of a mutually favorable market exchange, treating human beings like commodities sitting on a shelf, it completely hollows out the nature of connection.
And it changes too, right? Like what's considered a good commodity.
Right. Oh, constantly. Fromm observes that what makes a person an attractive package changes entirely based on the fashion of the time. Like in the 1920s, a drinking, smoking, tough flapper girl was the highly demanded commodity, whereas later decades demanded, wholesome domesticity.
So you're literally just shopping for whatever commodity is currently trending on the market.
Exactly.
And treating human beings like trendy commodities basically guarantees that the relationship will eventually feel totally empty. I mean, Fromm makes this brilliant distinction between the initial miracle of falling in love and the permanent state of standing in love.
Right, the falling versus standing concept.
Yeah, like when two strangers suddenly let the wall between them break down, that intense closeness is just intoxicating.
It's a huge rush.
It is. But if that sudden intimacy is based purely on physical attraction and the thrill of getting a bargain, it cannot last. They get to know each other, the novelty wears off, and their mutual boredom eventually just kills whatever is left of that initial excitement.
Because people mistake the intensity of their infatuation, the fact that they are just crazy about each other, for proof of the depth of their love.
When really it's not.
No.
Yeah.
Fromm argues that usually it only proves the degree of their preceding loneliness.
Oh man, that is heavy. But it makes sense. I mean, if treating dating like a calculated market transaction is so doomed to fail, it really makes you wonder why we were so desperate to pair up in the first place. Like, what is the fundamental itch we are actually trying to scratch here?
Well, to understand that, Fromm takes us way down to the existential roots of human existence. He says any theory of love has to begin with the theory of man.
Okay, lay it on me.
Think about animals, right?
Right.
They have an instinctual harmony with nature. But humans have transcended nature. We emerged from the animal kingdom, and we can never go back.
Yeah.
We are gifted with reason.
Yeah, as Fromm puts it, humanity is life being aware of itself. Yes. We're aware that we are separate entities. We are hyper-aware of our short lifespans, the fact that we're going to die, and our utter helplessness before the forces of nature. And this acute awareness of our separateness creates this unbearable prison.
And he actually reinterprets the biblical myth of Adam and Eve to illustrate this exact point.
Oh, right, the nakedness thing.
Yeah. When they eat from the tree of knowledge and become fully human, their first reaction is seeing that they are naked, and they feel profound shame. And Fromm argues this has absolutely nothing to do with prudish 19th century moral embarrassment about the human body.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because he argues that after they become aware of themselves, they become aware of their separateness and their difference, specifically that they belong to different sexes.
Exactly.
They recognize their separation, but they remain strangers because they haven't yet learned to love each other. So the shame is the awareness of human separation without the reunion of love.
And that separation is the source of all guilt and anxiety for humanity. The absolute deepest need of man is the need to overcome the separateness, to leave the prison of his aloneness.
See, I have to push back a little bit on Fromm's premise here.
Go for it.
Is all human anxiety really just rooted in feeling separate from everyone else? I mean, isn't that oversimplifying things? What about the anxiety of just trying to survive or paying rent or dealing with a physical illness?
It's a fair point, but Fromm means this on an absolute psychological level. The failure to overcome this interpersonal separation literally leads to insanity.
Insanity, like literally.
Literally. The panic of complete isolation can only be managed if you radically withdraw from the outside world entirely, severing all ties to reality, which is the clinical definition of psychosis. Humans must transcend this isolation to maintain their sanity.
Wow.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Fromm says this is the fundamental question confronting humanity across all ages and cultures. From primitive man living in caves to the modern factory worker, the overarching challenge is always the same. How do we achieve union? How do we escape the prison?
So we are absolutely terrified of this isolation. How do we normally cope with it? Because humanity has historically invented a bunch of escape routes to deal with this dread.
We have, and most of them fall tragically short.
Let's walk through them.
So the first major escape route he identifies involves orgiastic states. Historically, this meant auto-induced trances, the use of drugs, or communal sexual rituals.
Okay.
These states are intense, they consume the total personality, both mind and body, and for a fleeting moment, the outside world and the anxiety of separateness completely vanish.
Wait, what exactly does he mean by that in a modern context? Are we just talking about ancient rituals or something more contemporary?
The mechanism is the same today, but the context changes the outcome entirely. In a primitive tribe, a trance ritual was a shared, socially sanctioned practice. There was no guilt afterward because the whole community participated.
Oh, I see.
But when an individual in our modern culture chooses this route, say, through alcoholism or drug addiction, it leads to way more isolation. Once the chemical experience wears off, the feeling of separateness comes crashing back even harder. And that just drives the person to repeat the escape with increasing frequency.
That makes total sense. And then the second flawed escape is much quieter, but it's probably the one most of us choose every single day. Conformity. Union with the herd.
Yes, and his critique of modern society here is so sharp, We've completely twisted the concept of equality.
Yeah, he says that in a spiritual sense, equality used to mean that we are all one, that no human being should ever be a means to another person's ends.
Right, but in contemporary society, equality has been flattened into just sameness. We are expected to be these standardized human atoms functioning smoothly in a massive machine.
So, what does this all mean? Like, my daily 9 to 5 grind, the urge I have to buy the exact same fashionable clothes as everyone else, and sitting there scrolling the exact same algorithms as millions of other people, these are basically just desperate coping mechanisms to run away from existential dread.
It is a sobering realization, isn't it?
Is terrifying.
Union by conformity isn't intense or violent, it is calm, and it's dictated by absolute routine. And Fromm points out a really fascinating psychological difference in how political systems enforce this.
Oh, right, the dictatorship versus democracy thing.
Yes, dictatorial systems use threats and terror to induce conformity, but democratic countries use suggestion and propaganda. And the terrifying reason propaganda works so well is because people actually want to conform.
They want to be in the herd.
Exactly. The fear of being even a few steps away from the herd is agonizing. We desperately convince ourselves we are individualists following our own unique ideas, when really we're just echoing the consensus to feel safe.
God, that is so bleak. But there's a third flawed escape, right?
Yeah.
Creative activity.
Yes.
Like the artisan uniting with their material, the carpenter making a table, or a painter with a canvas. The worker unites with the world in the process of creation. But Fromm points out that this fails as a complete solution because the unity achieved is not interpersonal.
Right. It doesn't connect you to another human being.
Exactly.
So orgiastic fusion is transitory. Conformity is a hollow pseudo-unity. And creative work doesn't bridge the gap between two minds. The full answer to the problem of human existence can only lie in the achievement of interpersonal union. It lies in love.
So if drugs, the 9 to 5 herd, and building a table don't fix the loneliness, we're left with interpersonal union. But Fromm draws a very hard line here.
He does.
We have to be incredibly careful because not all interpersonal union is healthy love.
Yeah.
He makes a critical distinction between symbiotic union and mature love.
And this is where it gets really psychological. Symbiotic union has its biological pattern in the relationship between a pregnant mother and a fetus. They are two, and yet they are one. But when this pattern is carried over into adult psychology, it becomes highly destructive. It essentially takes the form of masochism or sadism.
So the passive form of this symbiosis is masochism or submission. Like a person escapes their unbearable feeling of isolation by making themselves part and parcel of another person who directs them, guides them, and protects them.
Yes.
They willingly renounce their own integrity and just make themselves an instrument of someone else.
And the active form is sadism or domination. The sadistic person wants to escape their aloneness by absorbing another person. They inflate their own sense of self by incorporating someone who worships them.
He uses a pretty intense historical example for this, doesn't he?
He does. He uses Adolf Hitler as a stark example. Hitler reacted in a deeply sadistic fashion toward people, demanding total domination and absorption of their wills. But psychologically, he masochistically submitted to abstract concepts like history or fate or the higher power of nature.
Wow. It's like symbiotic love is a parasite-host relationship, where neither can survive alone and both completely lose their original shape. The sadist and the masochist are utterly dependent on each other. Neither has true integrity.
Exactly.
Whereas mature love, on the other hand, is union under the condition of preserving one's integrity. It's like two distinct pillars holding up the exact same roof. Fromm describes mature love as an act of power in man that breaks through the walls separating him from his fellow men while still allowing him to be himself.
This raises an important question, though. How exactly are we defining activity?
What do you mean?
Well, in modern capitalist usage, being active usually means spending energy to achieve a tangible external goal. You are considered active if you close a business deal or build a house. But Fromm argues that a man driven to incessant work by a deep sense of insecurity or greed is actually entirely passive.
Wait, really? Passive?
Yes, he's a slave to a passion. He's being driven by forces outside his control.
Oh, I see. He brings in the philosopher Spinoza to explain this, right? Dividing human emotions into active and passive affects actions versus passions.
Yes, exactly.
So to translate that into plain English, if I'm working 80 hours a week because I'm terrified of going broke and losing my status, society says I'm incredibly active. But Spinoza and Fromm would say I'm completely passive because I'm just a hostage to my own anxiety.
Precisely. Envy, jealousy, and greed are passions that drive you. But love is an action. It is the practice of a human power that can only be practiced in freedom, never as a compulsion. As Fromm beautifully phrases it, love is a standing in, not a falling
Is
for.
standing in. I love that.
True activity is the internal use of man's inherent powers, regardless of whether any external change is brought about. You could be sitting perfectly still in quiet contemplation, experiencing your oneness with the world, and that would be the highest form of activity if it is done in inner freedom.
Okay, so if mature love isn't just absorbing another person, it must require actual effort. It is this freeing internal activity. So what does that actually look like in practice? How do we do it?
Fromm says the active character of love is primarily characterized by giving, not receiving.
But we have to fundamentally redefine what giving means in our culture first.
We do. Because the marketing character, the person who treats dating like a shop window, thinks giving is giving up something.
Right.
They feel impoverished by it. They will only give if they receive a perfectly equal return on their investment. Otherwise, they feel cheated. And some people even make a twisted virtue out of the sacrifice, feeling that because it is painful to give, they are morally superior for suffering through it.
That sounds exhausting.
Yeah.
But for the productive character, giving has an entirely different meaning. Giving is the highest expression of potency, wealth, and aliveness.
Yes. Fromm uses the really profound example of a mother giving her bodily warmth and milk to an infant. Not to give would literally be painful.
Wow.
In the act of giving, you experience your strength, your overflowing vitality, and it fills you with joy. You don't give in order to receive. The giving itself is the exquisite joy because you are actively bringing something to life in the other person.
And he actually quotes Karl Marx here to drive this home.
Oh, right.
He quotes, "Love can only be exchanged for love." Marx argued that if you love without calling forth love, if your love as an expression of life doesn't eventually make you a loved person, then your love is impotent. You have to actively bring life to the other person through your giving.
It's so true. And beyond this redefinition of giving, Fromm explains that mature love always involves four essential interconnected elements.
Care, responsibility, respect, and knowledge. Let's look at how these work together.
Okay, so first, love is the active concern for the life and the growth of that which we love.
Right, like if a person says they love flowers but constantly forgets to water them, we don't believe their love.
Exactly. And Fromm highlights the biblical story of Jonah to illustrate this mechanism of care. Jonah lacked love and care for the people of Nineveh. He just wanted strict justice and punishment. So God makes a vine grow to give Jonah shade and then makes it wilt.
And Jonah gets mal.
Right. When Jonah furiously complains about the dead plant, God points out that Jonah is mourning a plant he didn't even labor for. The lesson is that love and labor are inseparable. You love that for which you labor, and you labor for that which you love.
And that care naturally leads to the next element, which is responsibility. Today, we often view responsibility as a heavy duty imposed from the outside by an employer or society. But Fromm says true responsibility is a completely voluntary act.
Yes, it is being ready and willing to respond to the needs, expressed or unexpressed, of another human being.
But responsibility could easily deteriorate into toxic domination if it weren't balanced by the third element, respect. And respect isn't about fear or awe. Fromm points out it comes from the root word respicer, which literally means to look at. It is the ability to see a person precisely as they are, to be aware of their unique individuality.
You want the loved person to grow and unfold for their own sake and in their own ways, not to serve your needs. He actually quotes an old French song, L'amour est l'enfant de la liberté. Love is the child of freedom, never of domination.
I love that. And you cannot truly respect someone without the fourth pillar, knowledge.
Right, care and responsibility are blind without it.
But this isn't superficial knowledge, like just knowing someone's favorite color. It is knowledge that penetrates to the core to know what Fromm calls the secret of man. Because we all have a deep, burning desire to transcend our prison and know the secret of the human soul.
And the dark side of this pursuit of knowledge is fascinating.
Yeah, Fromm points out that sadism and cruelty are actually desperate, twisted attempts to learn that secret. Like a cruel child takes a toy apart to know how it works or tears the wings off a butterfly to force its secret.
It's chilling.
It is. Sadism tries to know the secret by tearing a person apart, by having total power over their mind and body. But it always fails. Love is the only healthy way of full knowledge. In the act of fusion, I discover myself, I discover the other person, and I discover humanity.
This connects beautifully to a quote from Paracelsus that is included right at the beginning of the book's foreword. He who knows nothing loves nothing. Anyone who imagines that all fruits ripen at the same time as the strawberries knows nothing about grapes.
That is so good. You cannot expect everyone to ripen on the same schedule or function like identical commodities in a marketplace. You have to actually take the time to know the grapes.
Yes. And if we pull back to the overarching mission of the World Perspective series this book belonged to, this kind of mature love is precisely how humanity moves beyond treating people as cold statistical orders.
Right.
This patient, active, giving love is the only way to achieve the true unity of a global community, a sacramental brotherhood that doesn't rely on the hollow conformity of the herd or the transaction of a market exchange.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, the ultimate takeaway for you, the listener, is this. Love is not a lucky accident. It is definitely not a market exchange where you shop for a perfectly packaged partner who maximizes your social return on investment. Love is an active, demanding art form.
It really is.
It requires immense discipline, profound courage, and a total reorientation of your character toward giving, caring, and truly respecting another person's unique individuality.
It demands that you step out of a passive, anxious mindset where you're just hoping to be chosen and become a productive character who finds vitality in the very act of giving.
And we want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. Fromm wrote these words in 1956. He was observing how industrial mass production and the 9-to-5 routine were turning people into standardized human commodities, constantly looking for a bargain in the marriage market.
Right.
If Fromm thought 1950s capitalism made us view ourselves as marketable packages sitting on a shelf, how much more intense is that pressure today?
Well, it's exponential.
In an era where we literally curate our packages on screens, in apps governed by swiping algorithms designed for maximum efficiency and instant gratification, are we truly practicing the art of loving? Or have we just endlessly optimized our marketing strategy?
That is the question.
At the beginning of this deep dive, we talked about the modern instinct for efficiency and quick results. But true love, the art of loving, defies all of that. It demands the slow, inefficient, beautiful work of actually seeing someone. Think about how you can step out of the marketplace, put down the algorithm, and step back into your own humanity.